Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Mathis Show. The governor giving his State of the State address today at noon. We're going to cover that tomorrow, and actually, we may end up covering that next week. I'm going to tell you why. Here's the thing. First of all, he's doing it at noon. It's not going to be televised, so all the local newscasts, they'll be breaking it down later. Westmore is holding a town hall event in Cambridge tomorrow, which I want to go to. Now, I have wanted to do a live show, for lack of a better word. And I will be honest with you, my background is on the tech side of broadcast television. And obviously, I was on air on the radio for many years. But as far as the technology and what goes into putting on a live internet broadcast, remotely, by the way, is kind of uncharted territory for me. So my thinking was to do a live show to get the pulse of the people that are heading into what I'm sure will be a very open public forum for Governor Westmore in Cambridge. So what I would like to do tomorrow is attempt to do the show live out there and talk to people that are heading into this, what I would imagine will be a planted audience for this town hall with the governor, which is interesting because CBS, the network, is taping this, which I believe is going to air on CBS, the network, on February 15th. Don't quote me on that. But the fact that network television is interested in a town hall with Westmore in Cambridge, Maryland, which doesn't really seem like that would be the epicenter of his supporters, why would they do that? This ties into his presidential aspirations that we've been talking about at the state level pretty much ever since he was sworn in as governor. Is this part of the Democratic National Party trying to reintroduce him to the nation? Remember, we were talking yesterday, 2 days ago, about those national poll numbers that came out where Westmore got a 2% jump. How that is possible, nobody knows. With everything going on at the state level right now, is this an opportunity for the governor to be reintroduced to the nation? Because again, this is network television. This is CBS Network, not WJZ. So our goal anyway is to do the show live from Cambridge, Maryland tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. I ask for your patience as we do the inaugural one of these. I got a lot of emails coming out of the Super Bowl on why I didn't talk about the Super Bowl. And honestly, I didn't think there was a whole lot to say about the Super Bowl. All the, all the anger that came out on the Bad Bunny performance. Look, I'm just telling you, I have lost interest in the NFL going back to the kneeling thing. I've told this story 1,000 times. I had season tickets to the Ravens. They cost me my season tickets because of that. That kind of left a burr under my saddle that I never really got over. But beyond that, it's just a bad product these days. I mean, the Super Bowl, forget the Bad Bunny thing. I'll talk about that for a second if you really care. But the product itself, I don't know all the Patriot names, and honestly, I don't care enough about the NFL to prep enough to go look them up and have them in front of me. But I'll tell you who should have been MVP in that game was the kicker. The quarterback for the Patriots, nothing against the kid, man, but I mean, so far out of his league. This is supposed to be the best of the best on the biggest stage that the sport has to offer, and the kid looked like he should be playing peewee football. The kicker for the Seattle Seahawks should have got MVP player of the game. I think the score in the second quarter was 12-0. It was 4 field goals. The most exciting thing about the game, actually, was this guy that stormed the field. And by the way, I love this story, by the way. I understand why the networks don't want to show it because they don't want to encourage people to do it. It was here's the video right here. It was the most entertaining part of the game. I don't understand why the guy took a slide there. And Collinsworth was like, oh, this is despicable. It's slowing down. Were you watching the game, Chris? The only reason I was watching it was I had money on it. Could care less about the Seahawks or the Patriots. I'm trying to figure out why this kid took a slide. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. It's being reported all over the internet and social media. Supposedly, this guy, you can do future bets on pretty much anything. You can bet anything in the Super Bowl, whether it's heads or tails, who's going to score first. Obviously, your regular proposition bets. You can do pools. There was a bet, allegedly. Now, I fact-checked this. Supposedly it's true. The actual numbers are up for a little bit of debate. But supposedly this guy did a exotic bet on whether somebody would storm the field or not, and then did it himself. And supposedly he bet $40,000 on whether somebody was going to rush the field. So I don't know what a ticket is to the Super Bowl, but let's just call that $5,000. He had to pay a $1,000 fine. I believe he spent the night in jail, and on his $40,000 future bet, supposedly walked away with $300,000. And by the way, if he would have scored, here it is again, if he would have scored the touchdown, it would have been the only touchdown of the game at that point. I think I watched both halftime shows, flipped back and forth. I did go back and watch the whole Bad Bunny show later on. I understand why people are so indignant about it. It is frustrating that on the sport's biggest stage, there's 45 minutes where you can't understand a single word that the halftime artist is performing. I don't think that's a racist narrative by any means. I watched the Turning Point concert also. I thought the production of that was actually very was very poor. They didn't shoot it in high def. I like the idea behind it. It was televised on one of Fox 45's sub channels. The rest of it was on the internet. There was no real crowd in it. It seemed from a production standpoint to be poorly put together, but I like the idea, and I think that they're on to something. As a huge fan of country music, and I've had the privilege over the years of going to many music festivals, and I think I've seen every artist that was at the Turning Point concert, including Kid Rock, who was a great show live. It just feels like they missed the mark on it. They've already come in and said they're going to do a similar thing next year. Why not go ahead, turn it into a music festival where you're running multiple acts and it's going on for several hours? You put real production value behind it. You put it on network television. The Super Bowl ratings, I think, for everybody that was so indignant about them picking Bad Bunny, the excitement may be the wrong word, but just the curiosity led to the numbers. It's got to be one of the worst. I'm not talking about Bad Bunny. I'm talking about just the game itself. It had to be one of the worst Super Bowls I've seen in a long time. There may be a market for something to go toe-to-toe against it. But I would do it as a music festival. I would definitely shoot the thing in high def and then go ahead and, broadcast the halftime show live that will coincide with the Super Bowl halftime show. But look, I think the only reason why the Super Bowl did its numbers wasn't because, and it was all tied into the halftime show. Absolutely. The commercials that used to be a big draw, Super Bowl commercials, and maybe I'm just getting older. I don't know. Maybe I'm quickly becoming that guy. I didn't think they were good. They weren't creative. They weren't funny. The game itself wasn't entertaining. I feel like the product of the NFL has just been watered down so much. The Patriots, I believe, scored one first down in the first half, and picked up a little bit in the back. And just watching the commentators trying to spin this as some amazing defensive game, it was just bad football at the highest levels. It being in the daytime, I thought it was. I know that sounds goofy, but it feels like the Super Bowl should be at night if it's going to be outside, especially when it comes to the production value for the halftime show. I don't know. Just generally speaking, not impressed at all. I don't. Does Bad Bunny have crabs or something? I don't know. He kept grabbing his Netherlands region. It seems like his day laborers that built the house that he was standing on top of, they didn't do a good job. He fell through the roof. Seemed to have major electrical problems. They kept cutting power lines. Got flashbacks of Westmore on that one. So I don't know. Look, I'm not one of those people that was overly, with everything going on in this world right now. I wasn't overly concerned about the Bad Bunny performance, but as somebody that grew up with Monday Night Football, and I'm almost 50 years old now, so I think the Colts left when I was 7. I grew up as a 49er fan during that dynasty. During the 80s, obviously the Cowboys in the 90s, and then the Patriots with Belichick and Brady. We had 10-year run with them being a dynasty. Ever since the NFL went down the road of parity, I think they've done themselves a disservice. I'm just saying this as a sports fan. They thought that by having parity and an opportunity for any year it to be anybody's year, that it would add more competitiveness and make the game more exciting. I think it's done the exact opposite. And the Super Bowl last Sunday was really a perfect example of that. It was watered down, mediocre football. Patriots really should have been there, but because of a weak division, they were able to go on and compete to be world champs. Tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, is that entertaining to you in a game where penalties and flags have determined? I mean, the Ravens have been victims of this more than anybody. Have determined the outcome of a game. It's just the watering down in general, and this isn't sour grapes with the Ravens per se, but I just feel like the product in general has become unaffordable for most people to go to games. And then you tie in things like the kneeling and what happened in London. And I'm telling you, I know that was 10 years ago. There's a large portion of the fan base that never got over that. And when that happened, I knew that the ramifications were going to be long lasting. The same way that baseball, I don't think ever completely recovered from the player strikes back in the 90s. People are creatures of habit, and when you have somebody change their habits or lose an emotional connection to something, which is what the Ravens managed to accomplish for the whole league, it's very hard to regain that. And yeah, look, we are a football town, and I think sometimes people that are Raven fans and live here in Maryland, the energy and the support that the Ravens have from the fan base, I'm telling you guys, that is not universal across the country. There are cities that are football towns. Baltimore is one of them. Pittsburgh is one of them. San Francisco is one of them. Dallas is one of them. But then there are towns that are not, like Jacksonville. I remember Jacksonville was tarping out the upper decks of their stadium so they weren't official seats, and their games wouldn't get blacked out on network television because of the broadcasting rights from the networks. Washington, D.C., when it was FedEx Field, it was the largest stadium in the league, had roughly 92,000 seats. Dan Snyder, when he was owner, had to pull 30,000 seats out of FedEx Field to improve the fan experience. The reason he did it was he couldn't sell out that monstrosity, a horrible stadium and a worse team ever since he took over ownership in the early 2000s. He had to rip 30,000 seats out so the Redskins, which is what they were called at the time, wouldn't get blacked out in the nation's capital. So yeah, the Ravens were able to kind of overcome the disaster mistake that they made in London, but I'm not even sure they fully did. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. You still have the Ravens are running commercials in the middle of the season selling single game tickets, which leads me to believe that they're not selling out these games. I mean, technically they are, and um, as I've said before, had the privilege of covering the NFL for over 10 years. I was embedded with Washington. Was with them on team planes, at training camp, on the road. I used to joke around, it's as close as you can be on an NFL team with actually being on on the team. And because of that experience, I got to go to except two almost every stadium in the league. And I'll tell you firsthand, the Ravens do an amazing job of the in-game experience and the way they present the team and everything around M&T Bank Stadium. But still, they haven't fully recovered from it. And I don't know. I just like I said, I had money money on the games. That's the reason I watched the Super Bowl. But short of that, I probably would have thrown something on Netflix. I didn't have any connection to it. I remember back in the day, even when the Ravens came, and I was a diehard Raven fan, there were still other teams that I enjoyed following. I used to follow the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. I was always kind of a Niner fan, even though I wasn't passionate about it. But from my childhood, used to follow the Jets a little bit, and right now it's pretty much just the Ravens. And honestly, I find them harder and harder to get passionate about. This constant crap with Lamar Jackson, Steve Bisciotti all of a sudden acting like an ass for some random reason, the ousting of Harbaugh. I know a lot of you support that. I didn't. And then on the sport's biggest stage, which is the Super Bowl, you're watching mediocre football. And look, I mean, the Bad Bunny thing, whatever, man. I mean, I- because of my background, I like to view things from like a production standpoint. And from a production standpoint, I thought it was cool. I did. Tracking shot in the beginning with him walking through all the trees rivaled out of Goodfellas. Trees were people, by the way. They were. All the trees. 300 people were extras. I don't know, man. Look, there's too many real things going on in this world to get too upset about Bad Bunny. But the people that, and I got some liberal friends that had never heard of Bad Bunny, okay, didn't care about Bad Bunny, couldn't understand a word that Bad Bunny said. They supported Bad Bunny because the MAGA people, Republicans, conservatives, whatever you want to call them, were upset about it. But they're not upset because they couldn't. Well, they were upset because they couldn't understand the show. It's another slap in the face of trying to rip away American culture. That's where the frustration from that came, and that's why the NFL put him on that stage. They're trying to make another political statement. And hey, look, guys, I guess mission accomplished, because the NFL believes that their primary purpose in this world is to make political statements. They did it with London. They did it with Bad Bunny. That's all that was about. That's all that was about. So fine, mission accomplished. You're still doing it with putting your slogans and your whatever you want to call it in the end zones. When they were putting the same thing on the back of their helmets, they were big supporters of Black Lives Matter, putting their banners in the end zone. Fine. I mean, if you believe that your role in society is more about disseminating political ideology, I guess, than playing a sport, continue to do it and do it at your own demise. And, the only reason that you were in London and you've done games, in Ireland and in Mexico, I am sure there are minds at the New York level when it comes to the NFL that are way smarter than me, but it is an American sport. And I understand why you want to go overseas, right? I mean, any business, you want to expand market, you want to expand your audience, you want to expand your reach. From what I have seen, as much effort that you have put into making the NFL, the N stands for national, by the way, a global product, it's not. It's uniquely American. Soccer is a global product. And you can go and have a game overseas in Ireland, in London, and people of means that are fans of the home team will travel and build a vacation around it. But don't mistake that as these other countries are embracing American football. And I don't know if the Bad Bunny thing was, again, another olive branch to try to expand your marketplace, or just flipping your finger to your base, which you're pretty good at. And the NFL has done that time and time and time again, because they put their politics above their play on the field. And again, I'm not some diehard sports fan in general, but I do believe that it plays a role in our society. And I said this when the London thing happened with the Ravens. The great thing about sports, in my humble opinion, is I think it's good for the psyche to be able to care about something that at the end of the day doesn't really matter. It's a distraction. One of my closest friends, Steve Fox, owns Bread and Circuses out in Towson. Bread and Circuses, if you haven't been there, right at Chesapeake in Delaware, go there. Tell him Jimmy Mathis sent you. If you remember me from the radio days, Bread and Circuses was a title sponsor of mine over at WBAL for many years, and it was a business relationship that turned into a personal relationship, and Steve's a very good friend. But anytime I tell people about the restaurant, Bread and Circuses, they always find the name fascinating, and they want to know what it means, the background of it. And it's an old Roman proverb. Bread and Circuses was the bread means people will not starve. They won't starve. The masses will not starve in the streets. So whether they have jobs or you do it through food stamps, whatever, the people have to be fed, and they have to be entertained. And for the Romans, the entertainment was the gladiators. And for us, it's the NFL and MLB and then whatever sport, collegiate sports, because you're not going to starve and you have to be somewhat distracted. And the distraction isn't a bad thing. I think within reason, it's healthy to be emotionally invested in something that at the end of the day doesn't really matter. But when that thing that is a distraction becomes too serious, and now it becomes a political machine, which is what the NFL has become on purpose, it loses its value. And then when you start to water down the play and you have penalties and referees that are determine the outcome of the games, it's I think it makes it kind of lose its luster. So that's my 2 cents on Super Bowl whatever, which kids don't even know what Super Bowl it is because it's Roman numerals. So how can you tell? I don't know. Anyway, whatever. We'll see how the Ravens do next year. So, guys, I'm going to put some. I'll put some post out on this on how to link to the show. Be patient with me tomorrow because it is our first time during the live program. The main source of the show is here on YouTube. If you want the audio version, we are on all the normal platforms. It's easy to find: Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, on Rumble, obviously Facebook. Follow us, subscribe. You can email me, jimmymathis@gmail.com. I ask for you to like and share the show. That is how we build out our base. I've made the remark before, this is not a show. It is a community. Interact with it. I want to make sure that what we do is in harmony with what you want. Everybody, have a safe day. We will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
How to get loud, what to put in that drink to give the stars in the sky a little halo. Yeah, I learned it from the radio. If it wasn't for the speakers in the door telling me a truth I hadn't never heard before, I never would have kissed that girl, never would have known